Ready? Play.
My name is Clara Towson, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
I am Francisca George, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Susan Leemans, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom. Yeah.
My name is Zainab Sammaz, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hey guys, my name is Sasha Vickery, and I'm a friend of the show.
Boom.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Harris, and I'm a friend of the show.
Perfect.
Hi, my name is Jasmine Paolini, and I'm a friend of the show.
Wow, Jasmine, you got it in one time.
Well, hello there. We seem to have defaulted back to the old video. Welcome to WTA Weekly. And I'm here with the star of said video, our supreme leader, Mr. John Silk. John, how are you doing?
Well, I'm not sure. Susan Leemans might have something to say about that, as may Jasmine Paolini. And of course, Paolini is in Riyadh right now, so I'm sure she'll be coming up on a few occasions during the show. But thanks, Nick, for that welcome. The supreme leader, though, yeah, maybe we'll have to have a discussion about that one.
Oh, I was gonna. My plan for the wall behind me is to have like this elaborate portrait, like with a gold sort of outline, gold frame of you in some kind of military uniform.
Okay, and Susan Leemans and Jasmine Paolini and
yeah,
Jaime Faria, by the way, nearby. And Jaime Faria, apologies, yeah. It was just a very quick, easy one for me to do today. I won't go bore with anyone with the details, but there's a thing now where you can just put the intro video, and it was the first one. But Jaime, you will be back. I probably need to get rid of Rafa from that intro video because that story is kind of, you know, it was funny when it happened, if you like. You're not him retiring. I mean, the fact that I managed to manipulate that and put him introducing Jaime Faria as the new friend of the show. But I think in terms of that announcement, that's a little dry now. So I need to tweak that. But Jaime Faria will be a permanent member. I may also one day, Nick, when I do get round to it, get sort of some ATP and WTA players saying, welcome to WTA Weekly or ATP Weekly. But I had a chance to do that at the UTS in Frankfurt recently. But I thought, I don't want to cross. You know, I'm there for the UTS, if you like, and it's great. You can talk to the players and you can talk to them about anything, which is great because I don't want to just talk about UTS with them. But I also thought I don't want to push my luck by saying, "Oh, can you introduce our ATP show as well while we're here?" Anyway, Nick, that is a very random first 2 minutes of the show that you probably didn't expect.
No, well, that's fine because that's what we kind of expect on the show. And by the way, you know, it's great to see you back on stream. You know, you've come out of crying from your producer's box after Rapid's retirement. Fortunately, all the players who are going to be at the WTA Finals are nowhere near retiring. That's very, very nice to know. They're sort of they're all kind of in the prime of their careers. I guess there's a few out there with looking to make some next career steps, and
I'm making some steps too, but only just to get a pen and paper, Nick.
Okay, that's fine.
Don't worry. I'm not quitting. I'm not quitting on you already.
Making notes. Well, I just saw you walking off, and I was like, okay, well, I guess
you were full flow. I didn't want to. Basically, what it was is I had a thought, and I thought, oh, I'll write that. Oh, but then I decided to go get the pen and paper. I've interrupted you now anyway.
Yeah, chat. We were this close to this being a solo episode of me and you guys talking about WTA Weekly. By the way, Big Wasp, yes, you are a friend of the show. It's lovely to have you on. Yes, the chaos of live broadcasting, which those of you listening to the podcast are probably about to enjoy. No, I was actually trying to segue to someone who's actually made a very important career decision. Elena Rybakina has a new coach, Goran Ivanisevic, who obviously, when did he leave Djokovic's team? Was it last year or earlier this year?
I would say, no, it was definitely this year because I remember them being together in Indian Wells. And I think it was just after Indian Wells. I think the pair of them, you know, touched on the fact that, you know, maybe it was just a good time to end. I think Djokovic at that point as well was highlighting some of the struggles he was having with motivation outside of the big events such as the Slams and obviously the Olympics. It was a very cordial, you know, departure from each other. And, you know, Goran matching up with Elena Rybakina. Yes, big news, possibly the biggest news on the WTA side today, certainly off the court.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people obviously are quite excited to see, can he, make arguably the best server on the WTA tour into definitely the best WTA player in terms of serving. I mean, it's certainly something that was touched on. I mean, he was famous for being a serve bot himself, and hence the fact he was performing so well on the grass, and particularly at Wimbledon. But also, the more important thing when it comes to coaching is people saw how he improved Novak's serve.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me is that's a good way of phrasing it. Arguably, his serve is definitely the best server, because it's amazing what Rybakina has achieved when she's only really been serving at 50-something% in matches, and she's still winning. That was a stat that started to be from the Wimbledon final where she beat Ons Jabeur. And I was like, good grief, if she's only serving at 50-something%, what's going to happen when she's having a really good day? And if Goran is a specialist with improving serves, which is what he's obviously credited for doing with Novak, then to me that just makes Elena Rybakina incredibly dangerous if that combination works and she can listen to him. Like turning into a spot server or a more efficient server, that's suddenly you're looking at Max Rybakina, which is something we've not seen for a while. And I would be I think 2025, she could end up taking the world by storm. I'd be interested to know whether she's been doing some work with Goran before this WTA finals, like Iga has with Win for Set. Obviously, it's just been announced. So
Goran, or I think both of them said that it will start. They'll actually officially start during the off season. There may have been plenty of words exchanged, but in terms of physically working with each other, that will be during the off season.
So we probably won't see the immediate boost. Come Australia, then you might see that. And depending on how sort of the openings that part of the season goes, suddenly you're talking about Elena Rybakina being one of the favourites for Australian Open. So
if she wins the WTA Finals and she wins in Brisbane like she did, was it Brisbane she won last year on the eve of Australia?
Yeah, she won Brisbane. Yeah, beat Sabalenka quite convincingly. I remember that.
I do think that we might see an immediate impact in terms of her just. I mean, what I like about this decision is it's quite quick. I can't remember exactly when her and Vukov parted ways, sometime probably post Wimbledon. So it was September. It was post US Open.
September,
exactly. Post US Open. So yeah, exactly. So we're only looking at a couple of months, and she hasn't played a tournament in that period of time. So I like the swiftness of this. I like the decisiveness. I think the stability as well that can come with this. It shows that she's a real tennis player and she's someone to be reckoned with. And I think that side of things, as much as anything, it made me pleased to hear this announcement today. If she went another sort of 6 months, and many players do go long stretches without a coach, and we don't need to talk about Nick Kyrgios here, but many of them do go long stretches, and I think it just sort of adds to the doubts in terms of, are we going to see her featuring as a real force throughout the season, if you like? And I think we are going to be seeing her as often as she possibly can take to the court in 2025. And this announcement just sort of confirms, look, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to come and win tournaments.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think about this as a job for Goran? Does it make sense for him in terms of a coach? Because I wasn't sure maybe he would have seen like Novak Djokovic as like, hey, this is a one-off coach, a bit like Stefan Edberg was for Roger Federer. Like he's not coached anyone since. Boris Becker has, but that's kind of people from that era. Maybe there's people who don't like one and done consulting roles for former players. How do you see this being as a move for Goran?
I mean, I think it makes sense. I don't think when him and Novak, said they were going their separate ways, I didn't get the impression that he was going to be away from the sport for a long time. It wasn't like, I want to leave the sport. The thing was with Edberg, how long was he with Federer for? 2 years, maybe?
A couple of years, yeah. I think they parted ways after Federer's around about the time when Federer got injured in 2016 and needed to take time off. Certainly he wasn't in the coaching box.
So I don't know. I was just thinking, yeah, it wasn't very long anyway. Whereas Goran was with Novak for, I think, since 2018, I will say. Something like that. It was quite a while. Maybe 2016 even. Yeah, something like that. So I don't know. I didn't see Goran. I think it's a great move for Goran. It'll be another feather to his bow, particularly if she goes on to win titles. Whether he's with her for 1, 2, or 3 years, I don't know. I think it just makes sense for him. I mean, he seems to be excited to be back, and he says he's ready for a slight change of tack. Obviously, working on the WTA tour rather than the ATP tour. So yeah, and I think Goran will, even if whenever this sort of relationship comes to an end, I'm sure he'll be looking to continue as a coach. He's had a nice period of time off as well. 7-8 months. So I'm sure his batteries are fully recharged.
Right. Well, there we go. That's the main sort of off-court WTA news, as John has said, unless you really, really care about what happened at the players' party last night and or the joint Sabatek social media outputs that's been going on, which actually I quite enjoyed seeing, but it's probably not much to dig into there. So let's dig into a WTA Finals preview. Now, John, you were on the show where you and Damian Ivanisevic kind of broke down the groups and kind of saw how the things might progress. I think all I will say is on that is my views and Damian's are very similar in terms of how I see these kind of going. So I don't necessarily want to tread over too much ground in terms of like trying to work out a detailed, this is a path through. I think what we should do is maybe we should, because we can do this with a field of 8 players. Let's do a player by player approach, and see and sort of see what we think about it. Give this a proper preview and give all these players a platform they deserve. So, oh my gosh, I'm seeing double.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why that is. I've just switched, by the way, from one thing. I'm not.
He switched the wrong one. He switched the wrong one. Got all the outtakes here, all the production issues.
Am I here? Am I here now?
Yeah, you are. Yeah. You're
right,
not
I'm here
staring
once.
intently into my soul as you were previously.
Okay, well, listen, I've linked it up to my phone. If I run out of credit on my phone, then that explains why I disappear once more. But fingers crossed, it hangs on.
Are you in a hotel somewhere?
I am, yeah. By the way, do you like the little tennis courts behind?
They're great. Where are you right now?
Well, first of all, what 2 tennis courts are they trying to imitate? Because I don't think you can see the wording below.
Well, I think one on the right stuff at the US Open. So I'm going to guess the one on the left is probably Wimbledon.
Very good. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'm at a tennis-themed hotel, let's say that.
Okay.
I'm not in Saudi Arabia, by the way.
Well, that's what I was hoping for, but never mind. That was the place I thought of. I guess we can't confirm right now.
I'm in Mallorca.
Ah, of course. It's your second home.
Almost.
So what I think we should do for this WTA Finals preview is do a player-by-player approach, rather than we could do a little bit of predictions at the end, but I don't think it's going to be massively different to how you and Damian and Vance covered it on the draw reaction show that happened, which if you haven't watched yet, definitely go and check that out because Damian and Vance gave us some really good analysis for that. I had that on in the background while I was working, and I really liked what I was hearing, particularly from Damian.
Particularly from Damian. So Vance and I disappointed, did we?
No, it's more Damian's predictions matched very closely to mine.
Okay.
So to give you an idea of where I'm at. But let's do this. So I think let's go kind of down the rankings, as it were. Let's start with the world number 1, Aryna Sabalenka. And yeah, I think going into the WTA Finals, it seems like, according to the poll you put up earlier, John, that she's the favourite in a lot of people's eyes. Certainly since I saw a tweet from Tennis Channel saying the court's really quick, that seems to have cemented it. Yes, I've seen a tweet from the Tennis Channel saying the court's quick. So that's going to favour Sabalenka a lot. And arguably, she's going into this WTA Finals with the most momentum, and maybe this is an opportunity for her to finally break her duck at the WTA Finals, because she was a little bit unfortunate in 2021. 2022, she loses to Garcia in the final after beating Iga in what was a very close first set. And then 23, she loses in a showdown with Iga effectively for number 1. But yeah, how do you see Sabalenka kind of going in and what her prospects are?
I mean, actually, funny enough, I think the poll obviously is in kind of not irrelevant. So it's separate from that speed information, but 49% does sound about right. I think I said the other day that I would probably still take the field over Arena, but so it's not quite. Funny enough, I think I brought up the fact that at the US Open you got 128 players, and I would take her over the field there going into that tournament over the other 127. But here, over her 7 nearest rivals, I don't think I would quite take her over the field. But yeah, the fact that it's a quick surface, I like the fact that you bring up her last 2 years. I think that final she had against Garcia in 2022 was a great match, super competitive. At that point, though, there were still question marks about Arena and can she win the biggest titles on the tour? But she certainly put that to bed now. And yeah, I think her group it's okay. Could have been better, could have been worse. I do think that you could argue that maybe she's a bit more vulnerable to 1 or 2 opponents, such as, for example, Coco, whereas you probably wouldn't put her as vulnerable. So you'd probably put her more vulnerable to Coco than you would Iga, albeit, of course, that Coco is in Iga's group. But then Arena has she's beginning a Coco thing, if you like, in terms of Iga Coco with Qinwen Zheng. We've seen the gap between them. However, I do think that there's some shoots of optimism for Qinwen. I'm not going to talk about her too much right now, but I do think there's some shoots of optimism for her in that she's getting closer to Arena. I think they had a very close 3-set match recently.
Wuhan.
So this is, pardon? Yeah, Wuhan. Yeah,
Wuhan
exactly.
final.
It was in the Wuhan final, exactly. So, and that's obviously home territory for her, but there's obviously the pressure that she would have had there, Qinwen, but she dealt with that pretty well. And yeah, so I see Arena, quick courts, probably definitely being the favorite going into the tournament, having Qinwen in her group, but Rybakina's in her group, and Rybakina's the wild card, if you like. So, but from Arena's perspective, she's also played enough tennis in the last few weeks without being too much tennis that you're worried about her in a sort of Jack Draper, Paris Bercy-esque scenario. So I feel quietly confident for her, particularly in terms of getting out of the group. And after that, the world is her oyster, so to speak.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I think it's interesting you're saying it's the field because I think in terms of quality of players, this field's quite close. Like, there's a lot of they're all really, really good players. They all have sort of credit. I don't think it would be crazy to think any of them could win a WTA Finals. And what I would say there is, I think you have a point with Sabalenka's group. It could have been better. I think her dream group would probably have been Paolini, Pegula, and Zheng. I think that's probably the 3 players she would have that would have been her dream group. That would have been the easiest.
Paolini, Pegula, and yeah, Qinwen Zheng over Barboda. Yeah.
Because I think she'd feel pretty confident.
I don't know, Barboda. I think I would, just because I think Qinwen's getting a bit closer, and I've seen Sabalenka beat Barboda this year in Australia with consummate ease. And I know you would say the same about Qinwen there, but I don't know. I just think that maybe Barboda's lack of tennis right now, because of course, as you rightly point out, you're sort of comparing because in the groups we know it's going to be Arena and Iga in one group, then it's going to be Paolini and Coco is going to be drawn, and so you couldn't have a group, for example, with Arena, Iga, Coco, and Jessica Pegula. It's what I'm getting at, and I know you know that, but I just want to let our audience know.
I think the reason why I'm going with Zheng is because apart from the Wuhan final, Sabalenka feels like she owns her, I think, a little bit.
Yeah.
Barboda, she's had like a shocking defeat to, and she knows what Barboda is capable of, and maybe a little bit more worried about Barboda. That's kind of the dream scenario. In the end of the day, she got 2 out of 3, which ain't bad. That's actually a decent draw for her, and I fancy a chance against Zheng and Paolini. It's the Rybakina aspect that's interesting because they always have close matches. Rybakina always wins at least, I think, all but one match that Arena's won. Sabalenka, Rybakina's still got a set, even though Sabalenka leads the head-to-head. Rybakina has won a lot of sets against her, and is a nightmare opponent for her to put away. So I think that's going to be the main challenge for Arena's. Like, I agree with you. I see her getting out of the group. Whether she comes through first or second is the big question. And then it's going to come down to, well, then who is she playing next? Still fancy her chances on these quicker courts. But yeah, I think she's got to go in thinking that she is one of the safer I wouldn't recommend betting, but one of the safer bets for the title, one of the favourites anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, as I said, coming in confident, she wants this one, seals the deal with number one. And if you're gonna pick anyone in what is a fairly close field, if you made me pick someone, I would be picking Arena overall. If I let my head do the talking, my gut pick is different. But
okay, do you remember last year? Your pick last year. I remember who you picked last year. I think I was on the maybe I was on the show with you again a year ago. But
I genuinely don't remember.
I do. You sort of you said I had a last minute change of heart, and you said
eager,
that.
didn't I?
No, you went for Rybakina, I think.
I did. Yes, I did.
And you said you were probably thinking and then for whatever reason there was a last minute change of heart, and you went Rybakina, and I think she was maybe 1 and 2. Was she, Elena? She certainly went out in the group stage anyway.
What we did look out for was Pegula peaking in that tournament.
Yeah. I mean, regarding the group again for Arena, it's kind of a bit obvious when you're only playing 3 matches, but I think the first match for Arena is huge, maybe even bigger for her than it is for Qinwen. So when it comes to that first match, let's say Arena wins it, whether it's 2 or 3 sets, and of course we do know that 2 and 3 sets can make a difference, but for now we'll just concentrate on wins and losses. If Arena wins that, I think that's her probably through to the semi-finals. Okay. For Qinwen, I think that she can lose that match and still go, you know what? I fancy my chances against the other 2 players. Now, I know you could say the same for Arena. I just think that Arena going into this tournament as favourite, having played enough tennis, having picked up enough big titles in the last few months on a hard court, and you throw in the fact that it's quick courts. I can see Nurlan asking about that. There have been suggestions that the courts are pretty quick. That I think if she wins that, then she's set fair, because then she's probably going to only need to win one of her next 2 matches. If she loses it, and she might, I don't think it's as I'm not as confident as I probably would have been a month or so ago before that tight match they had in Wuhan. Then she's in trouble, because Rybakina can beat her. I think there's be a lot of depends also what happens between Rybakina and Paolini. I remember Rybakina and Paolini having an excellent match. Was it the French Open this year? Did Paolini beat her there? I think in the quarterfinals.
Yes,
I would say
that's right.
And surprised her and many others. And obviously that set Paolini on the way to getting to the French Open final, and those 2 Grand Slam finals back to back is one of the biggest reasons for her obviously being here, alongside that 1,000 that she won earlier in the year. But that was on a clay court. And whereas if Rybakina is fine, and the problem with Rybakina is going to be not just obviously physical and mental, but the reps side of things. Is there going to be enough reps for her? But if they are there, and let's say Rybakina wins her first match, and then Sabalenka's coming up against Rybakina, having lost her first match, well, boy, there'll be a lot of pressure on Arena's shoulders. Now, I'm not predicting that, but I just don't think it's cut and dried. I think 49% sounds about right for me in terms of the poll that I showed you before. And I would probably put that slightly lower. I'd probably go like there's a 45% chance that Sabalenka takes the title. But the first match is huge. She wins that and she's in the semis, pretty much, in my opinion.
Well, I do agree with you. I definitely agree with you on all of that, particularly on whilst I said earlier, from Arena's perspective, she'd probably play Zheng over Barbora. Zheng is still a threat, and Zheng has made progress as we saw in that Wuhan final, if you mentioned a couple of times, which I completely agree. I think Zheng is gaining on Arena and may well get a win. And I guess now would be a good time, if we was mentioning her so much, to talk about Zheng Qinwen's chances.
Sure.
Let's not necessarily do like formal order of things. Let's just dot around. Zheng is obviously coming in after a decent Asian swing. Got final in Wuhan. She's got that title from Tokyo under her belt. She's currently probably one of the top players of the second half of the year, for sure. Arguably, this is like straight into the fire with this opening match for her. But then, the rest of the group, there's an opportunity there, depending on Rybakina's form. I think this is this is Zheng's opportunity to kind of decide this is basically going to define how we kind of see Zheng's end of year. Is she going to kind of fizzle out, or is she going to do something to say, okay, that momentum she's built is real?
Yeah. And for me, in terms of Qinwen, she's the second most informed player amongst the 8. She's the one that probably feels as though she doesn't need much more confidence coming into this, because I think one of the interesting things about
we've lost John. He did warn us about his credit, and he was sounding a bit gravelly there, wasn't he? And everything's frozen. So I'm hoping that he'll be able to rejoin us. If not, maybe we just do this to a different show. So I would definitely agree with John on Zheng being up there, probably second in terms of form. If you're just taking Asian swing, Coco's probably just behind her in that respect. Anuar, second matches are usually winner versus winner, losers versus loser, which helps keep groups alive. That's the format that pretty much all of these finals take. So yeah, I'm guessing that. So I guess that, but like, why don't I can see Ghosty, Nerlan, Jake, and you're on the chat. So let's do WTA Weekly with you guys this week, and I'll just read everything out, and then people listening back to this can read back. Let's see if I can get something on the screen that isn't just my face. But yeah, talk to me. What do you think about? Never mind. John is back. So I'm taking it here to put a farthing in the meter. John, what was your point you were going to make about Zheng Qinwen?
Qinwen Zheng.
Yeah. I believe it's Zheng Qinwen. But anyway, hello. I don't think John can hear me. I don't know. He's looking at me blankly.
Yeah, am I back now? I'm hoping I'm back.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
All right. Well, let's. If you can hear me, I'm going to go for it. Qinwen Zheng. Okay, she's coming into the tournament as one of probably the second most informed player. And I think what makes it interesting regarding her in this tournament is the fact that there's kind of question marks about so many of the other players, particularly like who hasn't been playing in the last 2-3 months. Iga, Elena, those two in particular, of course, have barely played. And so when you come into the tournament, if everything was normal, those two would be very much in the conversation as being the favorite or among the favorites. And probably it would make Arena's stock go down slightly in terms of likelihood. But what that does mean is it kind of propels Qinwen. And who knows if Qinwen can beat Elena Rybakina tomorrow, of course. Sorry, not tomorrow. She's got Arena first. But if Elena, she'll be looking at Elena probably as being a bit of a shootout for her in terms of who's going to possibly come second in the group. Once you're in the semi-finals, who knows? And especially if Iga, for example, comes second in her group and ends up playing Arena in an incredible clash, who knows? Maybe Iga beats Arena and Qinwen doesn't have to play Arena again. And that's such a strange thing to say right now in terms of the fact that Qinwen may fancy her chances more against Iga Swiatek in the final, particularly if it's a quick court, than she would Arena. So, there's so many different paths and stuff to get to the final. But if Qinwen was lifting that trophy in 8 days from now, I wouldn't be shocked. It wouldn't be like, oh wow. I think we've seen a few, different players win this tournament, not necessarily multiple Grand Slam winners, such as Caroline Garcia, who's yet to win a Grand Slam, of course. Who was the Polish? You're gonna have to tell me what was the Polish lady's name who never won a Grand Slam, but she lifted the title, winning just one of her group matches, I think.
Agnieszka Radwanska. That was back in 2015. Great stat from Damien.
Yeah, Radwanska, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Damien. Yeah. So, you can win this by winning 1 or 2 matches in the group and going through and not having to replay, maybe one of the big dogs in the final, if you like. So, yeah, I can see her winning the title. She's one of probably 4 or 5 people in the field who would not, stun me if they won the title. Pegula, Swiatek, Zheng, Sabalenka, maybe Rybakina, maybe, but maybe there would be a slight element of surprise with her, bearing in mind how little she's played. But again, I think she'll like these quick courts as well. So yeah, I mean, why not Qinwen Zheng winning the title? And as I say, she could lose that first match tomorrow and then just treat it as like, okay, she's got to beat Paolini as well. I'm not dismissing anyone's chances of making out the group, but I probably am rejecting the notion of 3 or 4 of those players going on to win the title. But when it's a group like this and it's a 50-50 scenario, why not Qinwen being in the semi-finals? And once she's in the semi-finals, I think she could go on to win the title. She's not the favorite in the way that Sabalenka is, and I would put her after Swiatek in the sort of roll call of likely winners. But then her and Pegula feels like, they're both in the next group of possible winners.
Yeah, oh, they definitely are. I think that's the beauty of this this event is that there's just a lot of people who are.
Do you like it, Nick? Do you like a lot of people are sort of, they sort of like the cutthroat nature of the rest of the year, but do you like this sort of group format that we have?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I wouldn't do it all the time. But I
it's
think
nice to have something different. You're right.
Yeah, the ATP experimented with something like this in 2007, I think, and everyone hated it as like a regular tournament. Like it was right at the beginning of the year. They experimented with like getting rid of draws and doing round robin, and it didn't go down well. But for something like this, where it's like a spectacle of the pinnacle of tennis, and you've got blockbuster matches every single day, and you've got set times for when they're happening. Yeah, I love this event as an annual event. It is brilliant. Same for the ATP Finals.
Can I row back to something you said at the beginning of the show, which is why I raced off to get my pen and paper. But then, of course, we dived into the Rybakina coaching news with Goran, so it wasn't the right moment. But I think now is the right moment. And I'm going to bring in the fact that you said something about, a lot of these players are still very young and going to be here for a long time. And I quite like that the women's tour, we're not thinking like, how many more years are we going to see Iga or Arena or Elena or Qinwen on tour? Because in terms of their age, at least, we know that they're going to be around for several more years. On the men's tour, we had this sort of chasm with these 3 big players obviously retiring or have retired, or how much longer they're going to play in the case of Novak. And then there's this huge gap to Yannick and Carlos. And in a way, we're sort of almost looking at the next generation after Carlos and Yannick. But here on the women's side, we've got these 8 players. I'm not quite sure. Pegula's probably the oldest. Is she at maybe 31, 32?
Yeah, Pegula's the oldest. I think she's the only one who's over 30.
Yeah, but it's a
great. Krejcikova not far behind.
Yeah, true. But it's a great thing that these players, Coco, of course, has to be included in this discussion and can certainly only get better. And she's already a Grand Slam winner. And and that 4, particularly in the case of Sabalenka, Swiatek, and Gauff, anyway. They are 3 very, very different players who will pose each other 3 very, very different problems. And we will go into tournaments where we're thinking, well, obviously the clay in Paris is going to give us a very different scenario to the hard courts in New York or Australia. And then, of course, you've got Wimbledon. So I like that. And listen, I want more. I want Naomi to come back as well and start ruffling a few feathers. And that may well happen sometime in 2025. And there may be even 1 or 2 players that we're not even reckoning with right now, who maybe, Andreeva, for example. I think we are reckoning with Andreeva, but and by the way, I'm saying Mira at the moment, but who knows, maybe her sister can pose a problem or 2. But do you know what I mean? I love this. I actually just wrote the word stability. When I ran off to get the pen and paper, I wrote the word stability and peak. And I don't think that many of these players are quite yet at their peak. Maybe Arena, in terms of the age, you would be probably looking at that, and possibly Pegula as well, despite the fact that we probably see a tennis player's peak often being more in their late 20s. I think in her case, she probably is, this year has probably been Pegula's best. She's obviously had the breakthrough of a quarterfinal thing that she couldn't get past for so many years in New York by making the final. So, yeah, I so much to look forward to and having the 8 best players of the year. Do you like the rule, by the way, with Krejcikova obviously qualifying on the basis of her Wimbledon win?
Yeah, I think it would have been silly for her not to be in it. I like the fact there's a Grand Slam champion involved. I think she's rightfully one of the best players of the year, or in terms of like the biggest player, one of the biggest players of the year. Yeah, I would have been up for that. I remember being very frustrated where that wasn't a rule in previous years. I was very excited in 2021. Like, I was disappointed in 2021 to see that we weren't going to see how Emma Raducanu measured up against the top 8 in the world. Because obviously she wasn't high enough ranks to get in. Whereas if the current rule had been placed, she would have got in off the basis of that US Open win. Now, I know there's probably, and Naomi Osaka as well. Naomi Osaka, I think, I can't remember if she didn't play deliberately or whether she didn't make it, but I do remember she wasn't in those WTA finals.
A slight tangent. We've had Navarro is not gone. She's obviously the 9th alternate. I think she might have cited an injury or an illness, actually, to be fair. But so I'm guessing that propels. Who does that propel? Because I don't think
Kazakina is now the reserve.
Okay, and is she playing doubles as well, Kazakina?
No, she's not. Someone else and then the reserve after Kazakina, if they need a second reserve, is Danielle Collins, who has flown to Riyadh.
Oh, she has flown. Sorry. Okay.
She has flown.
Okay. All right. Well, cool. That's good to know. Although, at least in terms of the matches I've seen, obviously Barbora was there today. That was probably Barbora was the biggest question mark after Iga and Elena confirmed their participation. Barbora's obviously not played a lot of tennis in the last couple of months. But when she was the last to arrive, I think I saw images of her still practicing in the Czech Republic like 2 or 3 days ago.
I think the launch event last night. Yeah,
right. I think they'll all take the court, but maybe if one of those, players or whatever happens could happen, suddenly can't take the second match. Of course, as an alternate, you could, even if you don't play the first match, you could still theoretically qualify if you win those 2 matches that you play. Yeah. The problem is we've seen it so often where the alternate comes in, I think, for the 3rd match. I've certainly remember that happening a few times on the ATP side. And then you even if you win that match, 6-love, it's unlikely. It's possible, but it's unlikely that you.
But you still get some ranking points from it. Because
good.
You'll still get if an alternate came in, they'd still get 250 points.
In the case of Berrettini and Sinner as well, I remember those 2 being alternates in their homelands. That's still quite nice for them to play a match or so there.
Yeah, not quite at the point where we have a Saudi women's player doing this.
Not yet. Maybe in 10 years.
Let's go back to the players then. Krejcikova, I think a lot of her, I think we're right in saying that her prospects are very much defined by, is she injured?
I mean, quick court, by the way. It was pretty quick in Ostrava, right? When she beat Iga in the epic encounter in 2022. It was indoors hard anyway. Of course, there's not as many indoor tournaments on the women's side, I don't think, as on the men's. Listen, she hasn't really played a huge amount, and she certainly hasn't been pulling up lots of trees, I would say, since Wimbledon. But she is an all or nothing player, so maybe we should just not be surprised if she's lifting the trophy in 8 days. She is someone who was sort of disappear about. I get big on her. I start hyping her up for 6 months. I then decide to stop the hype, and then she goes and wins Wimbledon.
Yeah. This is the kind of tournament I would not be surprised if Barbora Krejcikova won, because she does tend to win her tournaments by just kicking in the doors. Remember saying, "Hey everyone, I'm here. Oh look, I've beaten some of the top players in the world," and then promptly leaves, and we don't hear from her much for a few weeks. So if Krejcikova is fit and healthy, I'm up for. I think she is a legitimate threat to pretty much anyone. If she's feeling confident enough, because obviously she won Ostrava, she also won Dubai 2023 by beating Sabalenka and Iga, which is also Dubai is also pretty quick. And then the other thing you've got to account for is Dubai really quick, really slick court, and of course Wimbledon, which is is grass, which is a different thing to a hard court, but I guess it depends on how the ball behaves. So. Do not count Krejcikova out if she doesn't have a problem. I guess it's the question of, does she have a problem that's kind of stopping us from going too much in on her at the minute? It's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, for me, it's just the lack of tennis. It's just the lack of tennis. If she was playing regularly, and even if she wasn't necessarily winning any tournaments in the build-ups, but she was going deep and playing regularly, I would then factor her in as a potential winner. But she's got the history in terms of beating the players that are there, and she's got the capabilities and the quick court and winning these big matches and pulling up trees, which is something that I said that she hasn't done since Wimbledon. She's got the pedigree. she's just not. I also wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't win a set as well, if that makes sense, just because she hasn't played much.
Yeah, I also, that's Krejcikova for you. You also wouldn't be surprised in that situation.
Yeah.
I guess lack of tennis can also play to two other players who are in the field right now. I guess let's go because we mentioned her already. Rybakina. Like, it's that lack of tennis that is stopping us from going too big on her this tournament. Even though I'm almost doing the same thing as I did last year of having like my gut telling me, oh, Rybakina could.
Oh, okay.
I'm quite big on Rybakina, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, listen, when she's played tournaments, she's been a factor pretty much at every tournament she's played. I mean, maybe there's a few early exits she had that I'm forgetting right now. But basically, you know, she didn't play Indian Wells, last minute withdrawal. She plays Miami, gets to the final. She plays Stuttgart, wins the tournament. You know, she plays Wimbledon, gets to the semifinals. She didn't play the US Open, did she?
She got to the second round, then withdrew.
Okay, second round withdrew, and that was obviously a factor. But I'm seeing some good things around her. That the employment, obviously, of Goran that I highlighted already. I think we are going to see. I got the impression with Elena a year ago. So this is, you know, before her, let's say, up and down 2024. I remember going into those, and the reason I didn't pick her to win the tournament a year ago was, as much as anything, I got some vibes around her that I just didn't think she wanted to be there. I didn't see her in a great space, either tennis or mentally, going into that tournament, and thus she went out. I think in the group stage, right, a year ago.
Yeah. Although having said that, she could have got through had tussle with Sabalenka gone the other way, because that was a match that could have gone either way in that group stage. Absolutely. But I had some feelings about her going into those finals that I don't have this year, funnily enough, despite the rough year she's had in some respects. I actually think that she could be a factor, despite having barely played any tennis. It's going to be tough, though. It's the lack of tennis that I highlighted with Barboda, and it does apply to Elena more than it does the next player I suspect we're going to come to. Again, she could win the tournament. Conditions, I don't think it'll be a problem for her if they are quick. It's a hard court at the end of the day. You know, arguably amongst the three, you know, even let's maybe put Coco in there, but yeah, I think I would include Coco in this point I'm going to make. Arguably, she's the more all court player. Would you fancy her more on a clay court than Sabalenka? Ooh,
tough one, isn't it?
Depends on
indoor hard that we have. So indoor clay that we have in Stuttgart maybe, but outdoor clay in Paris.
Yeah, like it depends. So Madrid, we saw that head-to-head, and Sabalenka narrowly won it. That's Madrid.
Yeah.
That's Madrid clay. If we're talking Rome or Paris, yeah, I back Elena in that matchup.
Yeah. She's won Rome, of course.
Yeah, Rome champion. Really took it to Iga on that slow surface as well. So, and obviously has beaten Serena in Paris.
Yeah. Before Elena was Elena, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But you know, hey, look, that's the side of the person she could have been, right? And you know, if she had a super close fight with Pavlyuchenkova in the quarters, and you know, if things had gone differently there, you could have seen a Krejcikova back in the French Open final potentially.
Yeah.
That was a weird tournament, that 2021 French Open.
It was, looking back, but not quite as weird now as it was like looking back in 2023 on that 20. It was now Krejcikova has added Wimbledon to her trophy cabinet. It doesn't quite seem so weird in a way. I mean, she's a two-time Grand Slam champion. So we've got Sabalenka has won 3 Grand Slams, and Iga has won 5. And then it's Krejcikova with 2, I guess, because Rybakina has won 1, and then Gauff has won 1 as well.
Yeah,
so
and then it is Krejcikova who is kind of coming up behind. I remember having there was someone who was like, "Oh, who's your top 5 players from the 2020s on Twitter?" And I thought, it'd be fun to throw that in there. And I did mine, and I put Rybakina in. And I got a lot of people saying, "Why didn't you put Krejcikova in? She's won 2 Grand Slams, and Elena's only won 1." I was like, because Krejcikova doesn't perform as consistently throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah. I mean, by the way, it's probably better to be crazily inconsistent than crazily consistent. I mean, Pegula, for example, is probably
Osaka has made a career out of.
Yeah, right. It's better to be amazing for 2 weeks and then, not amazing for the next 6 and then amazing for a week or so, because when you're amazing, you pick up those titles. And if you're amazing for 2 weeks, you're winning a Grand Slam every now and again. But anyway, back to Rybakina. Again, a bit like Barbosa, it could be any one of the 2 scenarios, and anything in between. I think it's just great to see her there. Hopefully she plays well. If she doesn't win a set, no problem. You and Goran can enjoy the off season and refine a few things, get some wins under your belt going into Australia, and you off you go. And she'll be winning tournaments again sooner rather than later, whether it's in Riyadh or elsewhere.
Yeah, playing in a very similar position is Iga Swiatek.
Yeah,
she's coming in with no matches since the US Open.
Right.
She's coming in with a brand new coach.
Yeah.
And she's just lost the number 1 ranking.
Which, by the way, even took Arena by surprise. I don't know if you've seen some comments from Arena today saying that she didn't even know she was going to be number 1 that week.
I don't think anyone did. I think this rule is very last minute. But anyway, I didn't see the comments, which is that is funny and very good of Arena for saying.
Yeah. She also said that she would like to sort of be this is Arena saying this, and I don't think it probably matters quite as much to Iga because she's obviously been there for such a long time and been so many year-end number 1s, or has at least done it a couple of times. Whereas Arena said that she would like to rubber stamp the number 1 by doing it by winning on a tennis court, if you like. So I think she would like to win. This is Arena would like to win some matches and ultimately be year-end number 1. Before she feels as though I really feel as though I am the world number 1. She's obviously been world number 1 on 2 separate occasions, and I'm going to guess collectively for around about 10 or 15 weeks. If you want to get yourself some water, Nick, do feel free to go get yourself some water. Oh, you got some. If you need more, then do so. But yeah, funny enough, we're 45 minutes into the show and we've touched on, women's tennis and coaching changes and world number 1s and injuries and not playing and past winners. And yet we hadn't really touched upon Iga in a big way. And now we will do. And she's the second favorite going into this tournament, which isn't often the case. It's often that she's a clear favorite when it comes to the clay and pretty much most clay court tournaments, maybe with the exception of Madrid. And also hard courts, it tends to be that depending on the speed and all sorts of things. But to me, she's a clear second favorite, if you like. I've not heard many people suggest that she's ahead of Arena in those stakes.
No, I haven't seen that either. I think a lot of us were waiting to see what the court speeds were like. I think it's very interesting, Iga's practice choices for this tournament, because she's practiced with Zheng Qinwen, she's practiced with Arina Sabalenka. Now,
is that a choice, or actually, to be honest with you, most of those practices would have happened before the draw. But you would think that post draw anyway, the players are probably not going to want to practice.
I think she practiced with Sabalenka yesterday.
Right, so that would have been pre-draw then, I guess.
But I think
you would have known she's not going to be in the same group.
There's a possibility that I think look, if they did know about it, then actually it's sensible for her to practice with people in the other group because she's not giving away too much. To her immediate opponents.
And she knows she's not going to be in the same group as Arena, so that might well have been. And by the way, when you say choices, I'm sure there are some choices involved, but probably the organisers also, there
was no one watching, so it wasn't like they were trying to sell tickets.
Right. Although we have seen some glimpses of those two. Did Iga step on her phone or something? I don't know if you've seen this.
Oh yeah, no, that's a TikTok thing.
Yeah, but did you? But there was a comment from Arena. Iga's like, oh, and then Arena's like, don't worry, I'm getting a new one when I get home or something.
Okay.
So I don't know if
you overdid it.
I haven't seen the exact. So I think they're looking down at the phone, but there was a moment when I think she just sort of touched it with her foot, and Iga was like, "Oh, I'm sorry," but yeah. Anyway,
that sounds about right. There's a bit of goofing around, but I'm playing 2 of the biggest hitters on the quickest court. On a quick court, that's something to give her some useful gauging for when she potentially.
What do we think about Iga's group, Nick, in particular? Because obviously I've spoken about this already yesterday.
I think if I was picking, if you were going to pick Iga's group for her, it doesn't really matter which one she picks as the 3 or the 4, because she's got really good head-to-head with Gauff and Paolini.
Agree.
Out of Pegula and Rybakina, she would have preferred Pegula.
But yes. Maybe
And
you're more convinced than I am, but just because of that Pegula win in New York.
yeah, I think she's got more. I think Pegula would still be less of a challenge.
True. Pegula as well as beaten on a quick court in Australia before the Australian Open.
Dubai, USA. But yeah, no, but the speeds even it out. Pegula's the biggest threat to her right now, depending on how Krejcikova is fitness-wise.
Yeah.
So Pegula, but like, I feel like it evens it out, but Iga still has the advantage if she's playing well. Krejcikova is the interesting. Krejcikova or Zheng is the tricky one because obviously Zheng's got a win against her in the Olympics. Krejcikova has beaten her a couple of times in their career. I maybe would have picked Zheng just, but it's as a preference, but it's really tight. So
the problem with Zheng and the positive with Barbosa, if you're eager and you're going for which one you think you'd have a better chance. The problem for Barbosa is again, she just hasn't played much.
Yeah.
But if everything was normal and equal, then I probably would go Zheng. But probably because I'm seeing Zheng play so much tennis and get better throughout the year. I mean, obviously she's won an Olympic gold medal, which doesn't count one single point in terms of her being there. But it's just great that we've got the gold medalist there too. But yeah, I might just you're going to go slightly towards Zheng, and if Iga was to handpick her group,
because of historic head-to-heads. I'm going off historic head-to-heads and matchups
I get it.
rather than form. Now so I think she probably got the slightly better. She's gonna get as good a group as she could have hoped for, to be honest. It's not going to be easy, I don't think. But I don't think it's that difficult. But I don't think it's. I think it's the better option for her right now, and I definitely think that she's going to go in feeling fairly confident about getting through, probably in first place, depending how the Pegula match goes. Because Pegula is probably the biggest problem for her out of her three opponents. So I see her getting through. But here's where I see Iga at the minute is she's coming in at the minute. She's second favorite. She's not played, but that could be seen as an advantage for her because she wanted that recovery period. She's going to get kind of that new coach bounce from win for set. Even if she doesn't do very well, it's a fantastic data gathering exercise for Facet and Iga to work out what works, what doesn't, what he's seeing from her firsthand against her main rivals. And so however she does, it's going to build very well for 2025. So I think she's coming in with a little bit like the pressure's off. Maybe she wants to target getting number one back, but it's not the end of the world if she doesn't, because she's not threatening losing number two.
Yeah,
that's how I would see anyway if I wasn't her team.
The chances of her getting number one are quite slim. So in a way, that also alleviates the pressure a little bit.
Yeah, she needs
not like it's 50-50
tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, she'd have to have a great tournament and Irene have a bad one. A slight tangent, but it might well bring us to our next player in a way. Who's the third favourite? Because I think it's really easy to say, listen, it's a clear whether you have a hunch for another player or whether you're tipping another player for whatever reason. It's clear who the favourite is, and it's also I don't see an argument not to have Iga in second place. And I think if we did polls on that alone, and by the way, there's a poll on YouTube right now, and the reason why I'm bringing the third favourite thing up is I've done about 3 different polls on YouTube, on Twitter, and YouTube Live as we are now, and every time I've been like, because you can only put 4 options pretty much always. And so the first 2 is easy, and you go for given there's 8 players, then obviously you're going to put another. So I never know who to put the third. And so, for example, as you see this one I put on YouTube earlier, but not live, just the YouTube community tab. Pegula's got 4%, but I think if I'd have put Coco there, if I'd have put Qinwen Zheng there, or whoever I'd have put there, may well have been below 10% at least. Who is the third favourite in your eyes?
It's not a clear answer, is it? Difficult. I think there are 4 candidates for third favourite.
Yeah.
Pegula, Gauff, Rybakina, and Zheng.
Yeah.
They're like the 4. They're kind of fighting over it. And like Elena, you put up there for historic reasons in that how she matches up with Swiatek and Sabalenka.
Yeah, and
Zheng you put up there for she is like the second best player of the Asian swing. Not followed too far behind by Coco Gauff, who seems to have got her mojo back. And has this pedigree. And then you got Jessica Pegula, who's had a fantastic American hard court season and was the second best player of the American hard courts behind Arena. So it's really, really difficult to kind of say, well, which do you go with? If and is the defending finalist from last year as well. If you were to kind of make me go, so it depends on which metric you use. If I'm going to go with something that's a bit more concrete and use my head, maybe Zheng Qinwen.
Yeah, maybe.
Just because she's got a bit more of a concrete status behind her, whereas the others are all kind of potential.
The YouTube live option right now, I think I went with Zheng as the third option. I found it really. I agree with the 4 players that there's an argument to put any of those as the third favorite. I probably wouldn't put Rybakina or Gauff there for very different reasons, but I would put, because of Zheng's form and Pegula's form to some extent, but also what Pegula's been capable of over the last 3 or 4 months on hard courts, and the fact that Pegula over Gauff, this is why I'd probably put Pegula ahead of Gauff, is Pegula against Iga, 60-40. If everything's kind of normal and we don't know what's going to happen and we maybe not sure about court speed and we're not sure about form or anything, you're probably going 60-40 there, whereas Iga over... And again, Pegula Sabalenka, I think Pegula could win that. Pegula can beat all of those 7 players. I'm guessing she's played all 7 at some point or another, and I'm pretty sure she's probably got a win over all 7, you know? So she is Mrs. Consistent, and that might be enough to take her to the title. So I might go Pegula third. Pegula as well, probably got a bit more pedigree than Qinwen, although Qinwen's building up a pretty good CV pretty quickly. So
yeah, I can confirm Pegula has won at least 1 match against every single player in the field, although she's only played Zheng once.
Right, so there you go. But she's beaten her. And the other thing is, she's not... I don't think Pegula's got a horrible record against any of these. You know, she's beaten Iga 2 or 3 times for sure. You know, it's not like Coco Iga, really, or I'm guessing Arena Paolini. I'm guessing Paolini hasn't beaten Arena yet.
Yes, she has twice.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Jasmine. Sorry, friend of the show.
It's 2-2 in the head-to-head.
Got that further wrong.
Yeah.
That's because I think you did 1 of those or 2 of those come very long time ago.
I don't know I can't see the detail, but I think it was from a while back. I don't think it was recent. Interestingly, Pegula is the only one other than Arena and Iga to have got at least 1 win against every other player in the draw.
Right, there you go.
Elena's never beaten Coco, and she's never beaten Barbora.
Elena's never beaten Coco, never beaten Barbora. Oh wow, how about that?
Yeah.
The okay. So actually, I think I've got this wrong. I think one of they've basically played each other, Sabalenka and Paolini, as you say, 4 times. But the 2 early encounters, or there was one super early one that went the way of Paolini in 2017 in Ilkley, of all places.
Wow.
I didn't have that one on my bingo card as getting mentioned during the WTA Finals preview. Linz also was not on my bingo card either, where Sabalenka won. And then they've had more recent matches in Indian Wells that went the way of Paolini, and then in Beijing last year that went the way of Arena. So, yeah, but I don't know. But you said Pegula's the only one who's got a win against all of her opponents, along with, I guess, Sabalenka.
Yeah, like the entire rest of the WTA Finals field.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Jess, Iga, Arena, which is an interesting prospect. And I guess we could flip and say that's going to happen.
And therefore, Jess is my third favorite.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of...
By the way, someone's calling this an amateur show. Completely agree. Graham. Apologies for my mess up there with the head-to-head between Paolini and Sabalenka.
I think he's looking at the fact that we're talking to each other from 2 rooms somewhere and not without professional lighting or a studio.
Oh, no lighting. He's not a fan of the tennis courts, which you can not quite see either right now because it's been cut off. But if we do that, maybe it's a bit clearer. He's not a fan of my background. He's not a fan of your
I think it's more appropriate than mine, which is basically J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, I don't know what we think about the curtain. I don't know. But I've seen a few tennis players do stuff like on far bigger shows than this, and they've got a curtain in the background because they're calling from a hotel in Australia during COVID or something.
I mean, there's some people who's actually wishing it was actually more amateur and wishing you were coming to us for a train or a bar.
Well, that has happened.
Some of the, I think you should just listen to what we're saying rather than how we look. With But yeah, I think we've just done a little bit of a preview of Pegula in there, and I agree with you. I think her consistency, her head-to-heads, like I think she does justify herself as being up there as a legitimate title contender. I mean, look how she did in last year's WTA Finals. I think she's coming in feeling pretty good on the whole, despite sort of not a great Asian swing. I guess it's up to her to see like gear up and go in that event. I think it's been interesting throughout the whole show to this far, our show so far, that one of the players that we've kind of gone with that, like, we've looked at Barbora and kind of gone, well, she could do something. The player who I think it sounds like you are seem a bit the least confident in the whole field is Jasmine Paolini, who was the 4th seed. Now, I think a lot of that's probably got to do with Paolini's group potentially, but I don't know whether that's something you would agree with. Maybe if she was in a group with Jess and Barbora, it would be a different story, regardless of who her top seed was, Arena or Iga. But I'm surprised we're so quick to dismiss her, given how many times she's gone super deep in tournaments this year, particularly 2 of the Grand Slams.
I probably, as you say, it's partly the group. Maybe if she was in the other group, I could see her doing something against Jessica and Barbora. But, you know, where are we at with Jasmine in terms of, you know, post-Wimbledon final?
Great doubles player.
Yeah, absolutely. And she'll be playing the double. I'm guessing she's the only one in the field playing doubles as well, because obviously Coco and Jessica don't play much really.
I think so, yes, because Barbora's not doing it either. So yeah, she's the only one doing both.
Yeah, but she's as fit as a fiddle, so I don't have too many doubts about that. Yeah, I probably do find it very difficult to paint a path to victory in terms of the tournament for her, and yet probably for 5 of the players out there, I probably could plot a path to victory for one reason, or make a case for them. Those 5 being Arena, Elena, Qinwen, Iga, and Jessica. But yeah, probably Jasmine, and also, but even getting out of the group, I probably find it harder to plot a path for her out of the group compared to, say, Coco, which is the one that we've barely touched on so far, but I'm sure we will do very shortly. Yeah, hey, Jasmine, prove me wrong, and she's proven us all wrong on so many occasions across so many different surfaces in so many different circumstances. So yeah, but probably a quick indoor court again probably isn't. She probably would maybe like a slower, grittier one where she got one of those wins over Arena in Indian Wells on a
She did win Dubai, which is super slick hard court.
Did win super slick hard court there, yeah. I just find it a little tricky to plot a path to victory, because I think she could beat Rybakina, for example, tomorrow in the first match, and I'd be thinking, okay, now she's got a chance of making the semis, but I wouldn't think she's got 1 foot in the semis like I would with if Qinwen beats Arena, for example, or Arena beats whoever wins that. I think they've probably got 1 foot in the semi-finals, because I think they'll win one of the next 2 matches. Whereas with Jasmine, you know, if she wins that match against Elena, I'd be thinking, okay, that's a start, but you've got to probably win one of your next 2, and I'm not convinced that she would. So, yeah, that's how I feel about Jasmine right now.
Yeah, I could see. Look, depending on how rusty Rybakina is, I could see Paolini upsetting her.
Yeah.
Depending on, like, Zheng could be 50-50. Zheng can make a lot of errors. Jasmine is quite gritty and stays with you. I could see her frustrating people. Arena, I think Arena needs to have an off day for Jasmine to have a chance. Obviously, Jasmine still has to play well in that situation, but she's good enough that she could, I think, upset Arena on a bad day. But that's what she's got to count on. So I think it's a scenario where Paolini does get up the group in 2nd place. Who does then she play out 1st place? I think if she plays anyone other than Iga, she's got a chance. If she's playing Iga in the semis, no.
Yeah. One thing I will say that might be quite good for her, if I've got this right, is that her last match will be Sabalenka. Now, you know, Sabalenka could have won her first 2 matches and already be pretty much assured of a place in the semi-finals. Go on.
That scenario depends on if Paolini loses to Elena and
Okay.
Sabalenka beats Zheng Qinwen, because it's going to be winner versus winner, loser versus loser in the second
Oh,
match.
okay. So they don't. I'm just looking at a quick glance at Google. So actually, they've not fixed the second and third matches yet.
No,
Okay.
they shouldn't have done anyway.
Yeah. So, okay. So if Jasmine and Arena do win their first 2 matches, they'll end up playing in the second match together. Well, anyway, we'll see how it pans out. But as I say, I just find it a little bit, if she was, flying and winning tournaments left, right, and center post Wimbledon, then I would have probably a different idea on this. But she could beat Rybakina tomorrow, as you said. Probably meeting Rybakina first. That is a slight bonus, like rather than playing Rybakina second or third after she's got a couple of matches under her belt. So yeah, but she's in a group with the world number 1 and favorite for the tournament, and probably the next form player or very close second form player in the world right now in Qinwen Zheng, and somebody who, if she peaks, probably is winning the tournament in Elena Rybakina. Yeah, so that's a super tough group for Jasmine, despite having had wins over Arena and Elena in recent years.
All right, we've done an hour and 5 minutes, and you're probably wondering how much battery your phone has and how much money's going to be left in your wallet after this. So
I've switched to the Wi-Fi again, actually, so we'll see.
Okay, Coco Gauff. So last player to look at. It's interesting because Coco was probably going to be that player who kind of gritted her way into the WTA Finals through sheer consistency before the Asian swing, because she'd racked up a whole lot of points, a whole lot of wins. Even she'd only won 1 title in Auckland, which is 250. She got herself into a few semi-finals of big events, including 2 Grand Slam semi-finals. She was winning matches regularly, and that was what was going to get her through. And then she wins in Beijing and looks completely revitalized, and then has a little bit of a tussle with Arena in Wuhan. And now we're currently going into this thinking, okay, Coco's looking a bit better than we could have hoped. So maybe there's a chance with her mojo back that she can do something here. I'm certainly not ruling it out. I've always been kind of big on defending Coco and what she can do, and keeping in the conversation for that third favorite. I guess for me, what's going to really decide things for her is how she deal with a match versus Iga on a quick court, because that's the only scenario I can think of where she has a chance against her. How does she do? Is Barbora injured? And Jessica Pegula, who's been a bit of a nightmare head-to-head for her over the years. So I guess for Gauff, although we can be optimistic, it still feels like a match-by-match thing.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, that win in Beijing should give her some confidence and people that are plotting paths for victory for her. But as you say, she's got 2 very rough head-to-heads in the group against Pegula and Iga. So that is difficult. Whether it's a matchup style for Coco against Jessica, whether it's the fact that they're very good friends. And by the way, there is a comment in the live chat regarding Qinwen's comment on friends today. I'm just going to very quickly address that because, as I say, who knows? I do find that some players, I'm going to go for a super crazy tangent right now, but Jaime Faria has a rough head-to-head with Enrique Rocha, 2 Portuguese guys. And I think that maybe the fact that they're good friends gets in Jaime's head a little bit more than it does Enrique's. And who knows whether that's a factor here. And then coming to Qinwen, I sort of get it. I kind of get it that you go, you know what? I have friends already. I think it's going to be difficult for us to be friends. I think it could affect me. We're seeing the friendship now between the big 3 on the men's side, for example. And we saw it with Martina and Krejcikova, take off to a new level once they retired, if you like. And that makes sense too. They've got so much in common and shared so much. But it's probably a lot easier to do that when you're not trying to beat your opponent. I know that Qinwen seems to upset a few other people on tour, and I think there's been some comments like it's quite clear that why that is the case. I don't know Qinwen at all, so that I'll probably put that to one side. But yeah, bringing it back to these head-to-heads for Coco, yeah, that's not a great draw for her. She probably would fancy her chances against maybe Arena, maybe Qinwen more than Jessica and than Iga. But that win in Beijing is probably what you would be if you were making a case to win the title or to get to the final or get out of the group. You would be clutching, I think, very much to that win in Beijing, where it's sort of okay, she is kind of not gone anywhere.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that's what she's got to look at. She's also got to look at that Wuhan match she had with Arena, where she got off to a very good start and actually challenged her. So I think she's got a lot to be positive about. Remember, I think the ending of the match was actually pretty close as well. I think she's got a lot of positive things to think about, and that's got to be what carries her through this tournament. And again, she's similar to Paolini. She's going to have to just grit this one out. I guess in the way someone like Jess would have to as well. So we will see. I think she can definitely. I think she can definitely do it. I think she's definitely going to bring some entertainment to this event and some star power as well.
Maybe
okay.
this is her time. Just one more thing. Maybe this is Coco. I mean, she's obviously got one win against Igor already, but maybe this is her time to strike and just catch Igor on a cold day as well. And then, she beats Igor, then she'll be in final battle for the semis.
That's the beauty of this tournament, is the way it's sort of set up is there's so many different scenarios that you can account for that, like, really the way I can't think of a scenario that would surprise me that much. There's a lot of things.
Winning the tournament, wouldn't that surprise
Paolini winning it? Honestly, no, I can see a scenario where that happens. It needs some very specific things.
I'm here for it. If she wins this tournament, it's going to be fun. That's for sure. I mean, when she made those 2 slam finals in the summer, it was fun.
She would officially then be like our highest profile friend of the show.
She's ahead of Jaime Faria then for now.
I mean, I didn't know who Jaime Faria was before that video, but that's because I watch the WTA and I don't watch much ATPs.
I'm just checking Instagram right now just to check. No, he hasn't tuned in. Just every now and again, I do see Jaime Faria's name pop up on Instagram saying that he joined, but he's not done so today. So,
well, I apologize, Jaime, if I have. I have now heard of you, and I am now following your career.
By the way, just one person who has joined us. I don't think he's with us right now, but he did join us early. Was Pavel, and Pavel and I played tennis last night at about 10:30 p.m. in the darkness. Yeah, and it was an interesting. We were barely hitting the ball, basically. So what we decided to do is do that sort of warm-up routine where you're just basically trying to just constantly do drop shots. When you see the professionals, the exercise I mean. So we could see the ball under those circumstances just about, but we were still terrible at it.
I played a very similar match a few weeks back, where I was in darkness. Ironically, I started playing better the darker it got, and the less I could see the ball.
Well, Rafa Nadal won a Wimbledon title, arguably in the darkness. So
yeah, I still lost the match in straight sets, but I went from kind of being crushed to actually making it competitive, and we were literally having discussions. Like, he was serving for the match at 5-4, and I basically said to him, regardless of the outcome of this game, I think we have to call it here because we can't see the ball.
Yeah.
Which I hoped might get into his head a little bit, but it didn't.
Well, mate, you're doing a bit of sledging if you know that cricket.
Well, actually, no. It was a genuine offer, but I knew that it needed to come from me. But there was that part of me that went, maybe that won't give him the pressure to try and serve it out. But unfortunately, put the pressure on me to return. Anyway, so I guess we are kind of at the end of wrapping up the singles stuff. With the doubles, I did want to talk about the doubles. Yeah, Jasmine winning both, it would be an incredible feat. I think it's more likely she wins the doubles than she wins the singles. I think it would be an incredible physical challenge, especially given the quality of players involved. But how unlikely is it? I'm giving it a 10% chance of happening. I think that's reasonable. Maybe I'm a bit underplaying it a little bit.
Wait, Leylah Fernandez has had a run-in with Qinwen Zheng. I didn't know that.
I don't pay attention to these things.
No. I mean, by the way, if Leylah's had a run-in, I mean, Leylah's just wonderful. So that that is a bit of a surprise. But anyway, whatever. Are we any tennis this week you want to just touch on before we wrap things up, Nick?
Not a lot. I think it's difficult to know because we're obviously in quarterfinals days. Well,
Right into the next couple and go right now.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably why you haven't heard me ask you about the doubles. So what I was going to say was doubles actually looks really, really competitive, and I think all of the doubles matches are worth watching. I think the favourites for it are probably going to be either Irani Paolini or Siniakova Townsend, but you can kind of see any of those winning it. Super, super competitive lineup, I think. They've all got really significant highlights from the year so far, and that's really, really hard to predict. Interestingly, I wasn't expecting Kichinok and Ostapenko to be the top seeds at the event, really. I didn't think they'd scored enough points for that, but credit to them. They're and that could be Ostapenko's best chance of winning a WTA Finals. So yeah,
just
John, remind me.
the groups on the screen for the doubles. Just going to
Yeah,
share the groups.
showing the doubles. Yeah, there you go. Green group, white group. I mean, yeah, doubles are so competitive. It's really hard to predict outcomes.
Is there any other mindset sort of breaking up there? But is there any matches from the WTA tour that you want to, or anything on the WTA tour
honestly,
outside
there
of the WTA
hasn't been
tour?
any matches that's caught anyone's eye from this week in Merida, Hong Kong, or Yanzhou. I've been checking social media regularly to see if there was any kind of noteworthy match that's kind of caught some people.
I know that Zainab Somnes, friend of the show, is still progressing there, and I think she's going to play the number one seed, Sarasua.
She's playing tonight, yeah. Susan Lehman's just lost to Diana Schneider in 3 in Hong Kong.
Oh, okay.
Actually, that semi-final lineup in Hong Kong is actually really, really good because you've got if I get it up, Hong Kong Tennis Open. If you've got because you've got tomorrow the semi-finals are Yuan Wei against Katie Bolter, and then Diana Schneider against Leylah Fernandez.
Yeah. Okay, Leylah's defending her points there, right?
She is, yeah. She's so that's a big match. I think that's going to be a lot of fun, especially with two lefties. And actually, Leylah's beaten the lefty today in Bernarda Pera, and Leylah's been tearing her way through the field. She seems to really like playing in Hong Kong.
Yeah. All right, shall we just wrap up with our predictions for the WTA Finals?
Let's do it. John, you've already given yours, so why don't you go first?
I'm going to repeat it for those that don't know, but I kind of boringly went for a Sabalenka win. I think even more boringly, I think I had her beating Iga in the final, which obviously tells you two of the people I have emerging from the group. I think I went Qinwen Zheng to emerge from the group and Jessica Pegula. So I'm probably going for all the sort of favorites, if you like, but ultimately I have Arena winning the title. Typical prediction. I sometimes go bold. I'll tell you no, Steve. I once said Petra Martic would beat Iga Swiatek at Wimbledon and knock her out, I think, in the 3rd round. They did end up playing, but Iga won.
Yeah.
Anyway. And I had that year was 2023, I think, and I had oh my goodness, what's her name to win the title?
Vekic?
No. Some people went Vekic to get to the final, but that was such a random half of the draw. You tell us your WTA Tour Finals predictions, and I'll tell you who I predicted in this.
Yeah, so I think my so it's difficult with this one because you can go the safe options, or you can go with what is likelier to happen. I think Arena and Iga are probably coming first in their groups.
Okay.
Second places in their groups is up for debate. I will probably go with Pegula coming second in the group against Iga, and then in the group with Arena, I think probably no. I'm going to go with Elena. I'm going to go with Elena just to be different.
To do what? Win the title?
Come second in the group. Arena.
Okay.
Actually, no. You know what? No, I'm going Elena to win her group, and Arena come second.
Okay.
Iga Arena playing the semis.
Okay.
Arena wins that match.
Okay.
Elena beats Jess, and then it's a rematch and Arena wins the title.
Okay, and we've seen that so many times. I remember certainly on the ATP side, that where you've had two people play each other in the group, and the results being very different to when they rematched.
Yeah,
in the final.
I think that's what I'm going to go with, just for a bit of fun. I think it's going to depend a lot on how Elena feels. I think if Iga plays anyone other than Elena in the semis, then she's going to be in the final, and it'll be that Iga Arena showdown, which part of me would be up for seeing. I think that would be the best way of kind of ending the season, is a showdown between the two clear best in the world as of this year. But I would really like, yeah. I mean, there's this weird voice in the back of my head that keeps telling me, pick Elena, pick Elena, pick Elena. And I'm like, no, I listened to you last year and look what happened. So I guess if the voice in the back of my head is right, then I'm going to have to go crazy. Does John know remember what he did in Wimbledon 2023?
As my internet looks like it's dying once again.
John has lost his internet.
If I'm back and you can hear me, I've remembered who I picked to be Wimbledon winner in 2023, and it was Kudermetova. Oh, did I have in the final? And it was Kudermetova.
It's one of those things that, like, at the time would have made sense to me, and looking back on it, I'm like thinking, what?
Yeah. It was just because there was such a lopsided draw, I think. There was something else that I noticed going through the WTA rankings just now, by the way, just like as a random look, just seeing how some of them are pretty crazy and like, wow, like Ons Jabeur and Vondrousova, who have both been sort of featured at these WTA Tour finals, are like ranked around about 40 odd in the world. And it's like, wow, that's a fall. And I think Kudermetova as well has fallen quite a bit down the rankings too.
Yeah, she has. But a lot of the people who are in the WTA finals are mainstays. Iga and Arena's been around for a while. Lena's been around for a while. Coco's been in the last few. We've got Jess, obviously, as
Nick,
well.
My internet is basically saying we don't want this show to continue, and I think our audience might well be thinking the same.
Probably similar, yes. All right, well, I'll finish the point. But thank you so much, John, for coming on. I'm very excited to do the to watch the WTA finals where I can, and we'll be kicking off WTA finals coverage tomorrow, if that's right. I don't 100% know the plan, but I'm hoping that we get to do Sabalenka versus Zheng. That's my hopes, to sort of watch the opening match with you guys, and obviously continue bringing coverage to all the Paris Masters as well. And then obviously after the Paris Masters concludes, you've got ATP Weekly to enjoy after all that. We have now officially lost John. That's fine. So I'll just wrap up here. Thanks everyone for joining. Tune back in for WTA Weekly next week, where we will be everything that happened at the WTA finals. TBC if it's Sunday evening or Monday. But definitely keep an eye on the channel for that, and we'll bring you all the updates from the WTA finals in Riyadh. Thanks everyone for so much for watching. Take care and keep talking.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.